meeting at 6:00 p.m. Item 2, roll call. All aldermen are present. I was, and I am also here. All right. Item 3, Pledge of Allegiance and silent prayer in lieu of invocation. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you. Item 4, reading of the minutes of the previous meeting held on November 18th, 2025. See attachment number 1. Council, what are your wishes? I got a motion by Palmquist to approve. I got a second by Tim. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 8 ayes to 0 nays. Item 5, Common Council appointment of election inspectors for the 2026-2027 term. A, Democratic Party nominees, see attachment 2. B, Republican Party nominees, see attachment number 3. And C, unaffiliated nominees, see attachment number 4.
They can approve them like A, B, A,
Yeah.
B, or they can do them all together.
I guess we can approve them all together if you wish. If we want to pull any of them out, we could do that and vote on them separate. Or we could vote on them all separate. I got a motion by Pluis to vote on all three as a whole. I got a second by Penscover. Questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your vote. Motion passes 8 ayes to 0 nays. Item 6, consider the appointment of a regular member to the Ethics Board for a term expiring November 1st, 2028. See attachment number 5. Council, what are your wishes?
Robert is here. I don't know about the other girl.
If we wish to,
How many what?
one spot,
Yep.
We have one spot and how many applications?
2 applications, and
Robert's here, and I don't, what's the name of the other girl?
Madeline
Yep,
Paulo.
she's here. She's
Okay.
here.
Do you guys want to open the floor to the,
Yes, please, if they would like to come up and speak.
want to come up and have a few words? You can speak into the mic there. There's a button in the middle where it says push. The yellow light will come on, and then you'll be able to say a few words. Introduce yourself.
Hello, members of the council. My name is Robert Tieslink. I have actually served on the elections board for many terms. I am the current chairperson of the board, and I found being a member of the board very educational, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve. I'm also an election or a poll worker and chief election inspector at times. So those are my qualifications, I hope, and that's it. Thanks. If there's any other questions, I could take them, but otherwise I can step back.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Madeline?
Hi, my name is Madeline, and I am fairly new to the Wisconsin Rapids community. I've been here for about 3 years. I just finished my master's degree in social work, and I currently work at the hospital here in Wisconsin Rapids doing risk and safety management, which requires that I make ethical decisions very quickly for important legal matters and patient safety matters. I really wanted to take this opportunity to start getting involved in my community and bring my experience and education to the city.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, thank you, Madeline.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
take nominations right now.
All right, at this time, I'm opening up the floor to nominations from the council.
I'll nominate Robert.
I have a nomination for Robert by Mr. Tim.
I'll nominate Madeline.
All right, and a nomination for Madeline from Ms. Palmquist. So at this time, I'll close the nominations.
Yeah, we can do A.
Okay,
Madeline.
yes, sorry. Oh, all right, thank you. Okay, so that, we're gonna go A and nay, obviously, and A's will be for Robert and nays will be for Madeline. Any questions or comments before we vote? 1 minute. A's are for Robert, nays are for Madeline. 1 second.
Why isn't it coming up with a vote? Hold on. 1 moment. Let me just add something quick here.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, we'll do it this way. We're good.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. And again, A's are for Robert, nays are for Madeline. Go ahead and cast your votes.
That's for you.
Okay. So we have tie, 8 A's to 0 nays. I will make my vote for a nay for Madeline.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you both for participating in the community. Thank you for your service. All right. Do you need anything else, or we're good? All right. Item 7, consider a petition to vacate a portion of 8th Avenue North from Brown Street to Wilson Street. See attachment number 6. Paul, did you have anything that you wanted to put out now, or?
Sue would probably know more than I would.
Okay.
But I guess John Sherman bought these 2 parcels, and his resident, I believe, is attached in the southwest corner, and just looking to vacate the street that would lie in between the 2 parcels.
Okay.
And John is here if anybody has questions.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Sue?
Yeah, this is just the initial petition to consider, and then it is actually referred back to, or referred to the Planning Commission, and also referred to the Public Works Committee, and then it would actually come back to the council again with a full resolution on it, but this is just to move the petition forward.
All right. Does anybody wish to ask John a few questions, or? No? All right. What are your wishes, council?
I'll move to move forward with the position or petition. Sorry.
Second.
All right.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. I'm sorry. So it's motion to move forward.
Yep, I got a motion by Austin, second by Palmquist. All right, we're going old school. Our technology's not working at the moment. So all those in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Raise your hand. All right, ayes have it, 8 ayes to 0 nays. You know when you're ready. Item 8, consider for approval, second edition of advanced disposal. Consider for approval a second edition extension of the Advanced Disposal Industrial Service Agreement for leachate disposal as recommended by the Wastewater Treatment Commission at its meeting on December 10th, 2025. See attachment number 7. Council, what are your wishes? Derek is here if you have any questions for him. I got a motion by Veneman, seconded by Pluis. Motion to approve. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Ayes have it, 8 ayes to 0 nays. Item 9, consider for adoption the actions of the Planning Commission held on December 1st, 2025. Having had time to read these over, council, what are your wishes? I got a motion by Palmquist
To approve, and
To-
I'd like to hold out item 2.
to approve holding out item 2. I got a second by Pluis. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Ayes have it, 8 ayes to 0 nays. Holding out item 2, Ms. Palmquist.
Thank you. So item 2 on the agenda was a public hearing and request from Waterworks and Lighting to rezone the 2 parcels to a C1 district. And while this was initially brought forward with a desire to construct a solar array on the property, rezoning the parcels through a zoning map amendment and the use of the parcels are 2 separate items, and I believe they should be considered as such. So we've heard from their public utility regarding their concern about development and how much it will cost us if either parcel is developed and contamination occurs. We heard comments during the combined public hearing about the need and desire to protect our public water supply, which is the highest priority of concern when I was discussing with residents in my district and residents in that area in Grand Rapids. But it's not just our utility and the public who have concerns. There are federal guidelines for developing over a wellhead and within wellhead protection areas, and with every source I found, from the Federal Pipeline and Hazardous Materials and Safety Administration to the Wisconsin DNR and multiple health departments across the country, the consensus is that developing land within a wellhead protection area is generally a bad idea. Because these items weren't addressed separately, the Planning Commission didn't have the opportunity to consider only rezoning that parcel. But to be clear, this is not about the solar project. A vote to rezone the parcels is not equivalent to approving that project or indicating support for it in any way. It is about not gambling with the safety of our public water supply. So with that, I respectfully request that my fellow council members consider ensuring public safety over potential tax revenue and make a motion to instruct the Planning Commission to consider revising these parcels from residential to a C1 district.
So I got a motion on the floor by Palmquist. Mr. Catino.
I don't see Mr. Kearns here, but I would like to ask why it was zoned R2 if these concerns were present. Why was it zoned that way in the first place then?
We do have, Mr. Weiler has some information on this if you're so willing to hear him out.
Well, I'm more interested in the original zoning.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Todd Weiler, General Manager, Water and Light. When the parcel is originally purchased or becomes part of the city, what I understand is it always starts out as R2 regardless, and at that point, then you rezone it to something else. So this was purchased 80 years ago. I think a common sense of the people thought that we'd never have to worry about somebody wanting to develop it, so that's why it probably was never brought up in the last 80 years to rezone it.
Thank you. And we have,
Yes, if any parcel is annexed, it's automatically comes in as R2.
So for 80 years, we never thought to look at this, and it's the water wells that we're all concerned about? Or is what we're hearing not completely a reason why it wasn't rezoned from R2?
Well, I don't think there was a reason to rezone it from the zone that it comes in on until you decide that you might want to use it for a particular purpose and then consider rezoning. I guess that's what I would think, but I wasn't here 80 years ago, so. But yeah, it does come in as R2, and generally, sometimes when something comes in, there is a companion rezoning that's also filed, but the default is R2.
Mr. Tim?
Yeah, I think a lot more needs to be looked at here. I don't think we should just make a blank decision tonight on this piece of property. I understand the wells are there, but I also understand that we can build as long as it's not so close to the wells, and I think we need to have that looked at before we just go ahead and say, no, we can never build on it. And I think just it's pushing it too quickly tonight.
I agree that I don't want to have us make a decision on it tonight, and I also don't believe that we can. We have to have a determination made by the Planning Commission in order to make a consideration, but they didn't have the opportunity to have that discussion. So my motion is to send it back to Planning Commission for next month's meeting so that we can consider all of the elements.
Okay.
Consider what? Consider all what?
Consider all of the opportunities with it. Why Planning Commission, why Waterworks, why what it would take to develop that if we did choose to do that, and let the Planning Commission make a decision for us to then discuss in January.
All right, so I have a motion by Palmquist to send this back to the Planning Commission for further discussion. And I got a second by Penscover. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 6 ayes to 2 nays. Item 10, consider for adoption the actions of the standing committees of the Common Council as follows. A, Finance and Property Committee meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. Mr. Catna?
Thank you. I would motion to approve the actions of the Finance and Property Committee and the minutes as presented in the packet. That is my motion. Now this is a comment. There was something added at the end that would not be considered part of our minutes, correct, Sue?
That's correct. It's a separate action item on the council agenda.
Because it's tied to the minutes. It says A1,
No.
but that's not an item we took up.
So So,
Yeah,
can
the
I
subject-
answer that?
Oh,
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Whoever's got the answer.
So A is the Finance and Property Committee, the report of the Finance and Property Committee. A1 is that next item, and then B is Public Works. Because we already published the agenda with A and B, we put in A1. So it's not tied to finance, it's a separate item.
Okay. So my motion stands then.
I got a motion by Catna to approve the minutes from the Finance and Property Committee meeting, and I got a second by Palmquist. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 8 ayes to 0 nays. Item 1A, regarding the item 8B of the Finance and Property Committee meeting of December 2nd, 2025, consider an open session, a letter of intent for a land lease and easement agreement with Great Lakes Utilities Distributed Energy LLC to place a solar electric generating facility on approximately 25 acres of city land contained within 76-acre parcel of city land bound by Whitrock Avenue, 20th Street South, 2 Mile Avenue, and 28th Street South. Just to understand specifically what we're talking and to get this out to be able to talk about was for the purpose of this letter of intent, which is not a binding contract. It's not a binding contract. We needed to have this in order to continue the conversation into January, but we needed this in order to secure the credits that were available from the federal program for solar power that will be ending at the end of 2025. So this allows us to continue the conversation into January with the knowledge that we've signed the letter of intent that says we are interested in, and we're moving forward, but it's not locking us into anything. So it's not saying we're building this, it's saying that we are signing a letter of intent, just to make that clear for everybody. All right. At this time, council, what are your wishes? All right. I'm going to take Austin's question first because it was up first. All right, so I'm making,
Can I retract my motion?
You're retracting it?
Yep.
good. Thank you. Mr. Austin?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to thank everyone who attended the public hearing and shared their concerns. This project has generated thoughtful discussion, and I appreciate the feedback from residents. Wisconsin Rapids faces a core challenge: creating long-term economic stability. The closure of the Rapids Mill has left a significant gap in our tax base, and we need projects that provide measurable, dependable value. This solar project is one tool that could help us remain competitive. High energy use businesses place great importance on energy costs and rate stability. By providing predictable energy rates over 30 years, this project signals that Wisconsin Rapids supports long-term growth. While it doesn't guarantee new development, it strengthens our position. Nearby communities like Marshfield are installing multiple solar arrays to manage energy rates and remain competitive for industrial and commercial investment. If we want to compete for similar opportunities, we need to use similar tools. So the project qualifies for available tax incentives, which limits the array to 5 megawatts. Any additional capacity would require a separate project. Even at this size, it could produce millions in energy savings for high energy use businesses and help keep rates consistent for all WWLC ratepayers. I also want to address the nearby property owners. I understand your concerns. If this were in my backyard, I would feel the same way. If the array can be seen through a true line of sight, I would support additional screening with native vegetation where appropriate, and at fencing and gates where visibility is maybe more like at the entrances. Regarding the water safety, which was brought up, WWLC and our community development staff have indicated this project poses significantly less risk to our city wells than residential development would. Because of the proximity to the wells, the likelihood of residential development is limited, as we've previously discussed. If the land is ultimately designated as conservancy, this solar project may be one of the few viable options for development. One of my earlier concerns about not having a fully transparent contract has been addressed. One Energy Renewables has disclosed the project cost ceiling of $15 million, potentially paid off in about 15 years. After that, the project could generate roughly 15 more years of profit. The city could be getting the better end of the deal, especially if there's a spike in energy rates. Considering the minimal upfront cost, the fact that One Energy Renewables handles construction, maintenance, and decommissioning, and that the property will return to the city's control in a fully restored condition after 30 years. There is a narrow window to approve this project to qualify for tax incentives. While that is not ideal, the economic benefits are significant. Financially, the city's only investment is roughly $100,000 to connect the array. In return, we are projected to receive about $200,000 in energy savings annually, starting immediately, comparable to the tax base of 50 to 60 homes. Under our current rate of development, it would likely take decades for this property to generate that value through residential development, if it could at all, and with far higher risk to our wells. After considering the economic benefits, reduced risk to our water supply, competitive energy rates, and responsible land use, I believe this project represents a valuable opportunity for Wisconsin Rapids. For these reasons, I support moving it forward.
Thank you. Mr. Tim?
What frustrates me is I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse again. We're trying to ram through a letter of intent, which to me sounds like, yep, we're going to go through with it. And we're not even to that point yet. We're supposed to have votes on this before, and we haven't, and all of a sudden now we're putting on the agenda for tonight to sign a letter of intent because it has to be in by the end of December. I'm not against a solar project. I'm against a solar project in that location. It's in the city of Wisconsin Rapids, near homes. We can all sit here and say, oh, it's not going to affect property values, but we all know it's going to. We don't live right next to it, so we're like, that's all right. It's going to affect home values. There's a golf course right there. There are other places we can put this solar array. There's places out in Grand Rapids that we own, city owns, that Water and Light owns, not near any houses. I don't know if anybody's looked at that. Landfills was an option. I think there's better options and better locations. We're just trying to ram this through quickly, and I'm totally against it.
Thank you. Mr. Catnow?
Thank you. Speaking of ramming this through quickly, when was this council agenda amended?
Yesterday, yeah.
What time?
Before the 24-hour period.
Okay. Who amended it?
Me?
Okay. So we have finance and property. It's a closed session meeting. That's how it was submitted to be put on there. I didn't change anything. For 2 weeks, I've been under the understanding, and I've been telling people that there would not be a vote on this in December based on what was in the Finance and Property Committee meeting minutes. And then the agenda rolls out on Friday, and it stands as is. There's going to be no vote on it based on we only had a closed session and open meeting laws. We wouldn't be able to pull that out and just vote on it because no one knows what we said in that meeting. And all of a sudden, it's on here tonight. And we've had one planning commission meeting where this was discussed. It's never been to finance and property and discussed publicly. And we're making a decision tonight. I mean, the whole thing, to me, has just been a little shady. I myself learned about most of it from social media and what was being posted. There was a bunch out there before the planning commission meeting. And then we learned a bunch more about it in a closed session meeting at finance and property. but the public doesn't get to know about any of it. And like I said, I mean, I don't know how many people knew we were going to vote tonight. It was communicated one way that we were going to vote, but if you look at the agenda and the agenda that went out Friday for Common Council, there was not going to be a vote on there. So I haven't heard any public support on this, like zero, like none. Not one person I talked to is in favor of it or even impartial. Everybody's against it. There's some who are against it, and then there's some who are really against it. So this is a representative government, a government of the people. We're supposed to represent them, and the utility is a public utility, so the people own the utility. And it just seems like we're going behind their back and going against their wishes. That's what it really feels like to me. Like we had one public hearing, which most people spoke against, and now we're going to take a vote on it. And it's just most of the discussions happened not in a meeting or in a meeting that was closed session. So I don't think we should even be voting on it tonight. I think there should be a finance and property or a committee of the whole meeting that's open to the public, where they can learn and have some of the discussion that we had at the finance and property meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Veneman?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Tim. I'm not opposed to this project in any way. I'm opposed to the location. So far, we've talked about it a number of times. We've talked about barriers. And nothing has convinced me that the current homeowner, I'm not talking about future development either. I'm talking about current homeowners in the area. Nothing has convinced me that their property values will not go down if this project is completed. I feel they will. I'm concerned of that for the people that live there already. And for that reason, I'm opposed to the project in that location.
Thank you. Ms. Palmquist?
Thank you. This is my backyard. I walk past this piece of property basically 365 days a year. I'm very familiar with it. I'm very familiar with the residents. I talk to a lot of them while I'm out on my walk with my dog and my son and sometimes my husband. And I agree that there is very little data that shows that property values would not be impacted. It's hard to find data that supports that they would be, because you're comparing solar fields that are clear cut, that don't have tree barriers. You're comparing things that are not equivalent to say this could or could not have impact. Additionally, the minutes from the Waterworks and Lighting Commission have been in our council packet for months. This has been an item that has been in there. So we've had ample and adequate opportunity as council members and the public to see that if we took the time to read those reports that are in our packets. And then last, I was going to say that just because it was in closed session, it's my understanding that our municipal code, Robert's Rules of Order, and everything would allow us to call out any item that is on the agenda. And I was fully prepared to call out this item, hold it out, and have this discussion so that we can continue the conversation. This does not mean that we are putting a solar array in. This does not mean that it is going to be at that parcel. This means that we are interested in having a solar array in our community, and we need to continue the conversation. In order to do that, and in order to build in all of the protections that we need into the contract, we need to sign a letter of intent to have the discussions about the contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pluis?
I just wanted to go on record that I have only received one email from a constituent that was opposed to this project, and several emails that were actually in favor of it. And some of those that were actually in favor of it, I would consider experts in this field, as they serve on the Waterworks and Lighting Commission. And they're quoted, saying the estimates are this project will save between $16 and $23 million for our city ratepayers over the course of the project. So I think we have to be a little forward thinking and not get tied up into whether this was, on a certain agenda previous or not. We're well within the Robert's Rules of Order, and we should really make sure that we continue the talks on this, and that this project gets the full attention that it deserves, because it stands to save the ratepayers in this community. And it also is vital for Wisconsin Rapids to stay pertinent, to attract other businesses. We have one large industry here that uses a lot of the electricity that this will benefit for many, many years. Maybe that's enough to attract another industry to this community as well. But we should put some emphasis on attracting businesses and saving our taxpayers money in any way we can.
Thank you, Mr. Catnow.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak on the saving money, ratepayers, it's going to benefit them. And maybe Todd can come up and speak more to this. Aren't we talking $12 to $34 a year? And I believe the number was $630 over the 30-year life of the project. So this whole, and come up and correct me if I'm wrong, but it isn't much, and we're talking about all this benefit to the ratepayers. So we're gonna put solar panels over their wells. Might be a risk for contamination, but we're not gonna talk about that part. We're also gonna give up our opportunity to possibly develop around areas outside of the wells that would be available. All to the talking point is save ratepayers all this money. So if I'm wrong about those numbers per year, come on up. But I have in my notes that it could be between $12 and $34 per year.
Jake, you're correct on the 600 and some with our current conservative projections, all right? That's for an individual home. However, it's over $1 million, roughly $1.1 million to $1.3 million for 3 of our largest businesses in this community, okay? And should we have the good fortune to bring into another business of that size, it would also be over $1 million in that period. That is significant, okay? We also have avoided putting into our projections the actual electrical cost increases that may occur over that 30 years. If you look at history, electrical costs, and this is across the U.S., have been going up roughly 3% every year. We are faced with it going up at a potentially much higher rate because of the data centers that are being established right here in Wisconsin and all over the states, okay? We've been conservative. We can't project that. But we can project the transmission costs. We have very accurate numbers on the transmission costs. And using just those increases, okay, we can project the $1 million+ savings for these key manufacturers in the area. So I think we have to think about something besides just the residents. They are employing many of the residents in this area to allow them to pay their electrical bills. So we can't just look at the smallest area of savings. We must look at the business side as well. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that anyone might have.
So how much will it save a residential home per year?
Your number was right. It's $600 and some.
Not per year.
Per 30 years.
Right.
Per 30 years.
Right. So
yeah, I'm not
630.
I'm not going to blow smoke at anybody. Okay.
So 630 divided by 30.
That, however, as I pointed out, does not include the energy cost increase that we may face. And it has been going up at 3% per year. So figure that out over 30 years. That's a compounding number. Okay? And this 5 kW will be fixed for that entire 30.
Thank you. So, again, back to my point, this whole saving money, it's going to be this big project that lowers our electrical costs. I mean, speaks specifically to, I guess, the businesses then, and not the constituents that live here, because they're going to be saving $12 to $34 a year, and if we go in the middle, 20. So that's what they're actually going to save. That's what this is all about.
Thank you. Todd, did you want to add anything?
Jake, you know, I wanted to say, been listening to you talk for years, and everything you always keep talking about is how can we keep our costs down? How can we make more tax dollars? Now you're doing just the opposite with your statements. Here you have a project that I'm proposing, $100,000 investment. I came up with the $6 million conservative number in the beginning because I thought, hey, if somebody told me invest $100,000, 30 years later you'll get $6 million for it, I thought that's a good number. But after December 1st, we thought, well, let's start doing what John Bergen just talked about. Let's look at our transmission costs. Let's look at our demand costs. Let's look at the last 5 years, and let's historically put that in perspective for the next 30. I was actually shocked to see that that $6 million is more like $17 million. When you look at, like John said, our large industrial customers, over the 30 years, that's over $1 million for them. It comes to like $1,376,000. That's still being conservative, because when I was telling you on December 1st, the projections by the experts of what demand is going to increase in the United States over the next 30 years is going to be at a level that nobody's seen before. And that means generation has to be built to meet that. And that means ratepayers have to pay for that generation. So these numbers we're telling you are still probably conservative. And when you talk to our large industrial customers, and we don't have too many of them left, that $1,300,000 means a lot to them over those 30 years. And so, yes, a resident really isn't going to see much. That's, like John said, we're not blowing smoke up anybody here. They're not going to see much, but we need manufacturing companies in the city that have good paying jobs for the people that live here, and this will matter to them. And that's what we're trying to get across to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, one more question for you, Todd. So, thank you for being straightforward about that. The residents will save a little over $1 a month from this. What happens if this company goes out of business with the maintenance and the decommissioning? Because 30 years is a long time.
It is.
And I
So
think
I have Stanley here from One Energy. Can he
Okay.
come tell you that?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Stanley Minnick with One Energy Renewables. We've been working with Great Lakes Utilities members on these projects. I think the question about what happens if our business fails is a very smart question to ask. We're in an industry with a lot of volatility and things don't always go as expected. The answer I have is our lender, who we require to finance the construction of the project, if we aren't able to meet our obligations, would take ownership of the project. 95-ish% of the cost of operating the project over the life of the project is spent before it ever generates a single kilowatt hour. So we invest 95% of the money before we build it in order to build it. And then all that remains is the operation costs, repairs, things of that nature. If we weren't solvent and we could no longer continue as a business, our lender would take ownership. They would seek out other buyers who would have an opportunity to purchase the asset at pennies on the dollar, who would then maintain, like any bankruptcy judge is going to look at this and say, keep the thing operating as long as possible to generate money to pay the debts. So the number one objective is going to be finding a buyer to keep the project operating. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, who is your lender?
This is going to be built in 2027. So we haven't like gone out to get our official loans yet for the construction. So I
Okay.
can't answer that question.
So potentially, if you were to go under, we don't even know who would take this over.
Whoever we end up going with as our lender would.
Right.
But we haven't decided on a lender now because we don't know if there's a project. We don't typically go asking for loans from lenders until we know this project's moving forward.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I think it'll be important.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but that we know who that is.
Yeah, I would say we'd be fine once that's established and documented who that lender is. I see no reason that we wouldn't want to share that with you. It's just we haven't made that decision to this point. Any other questions I could address while I'm up here?
Thank you.
Not
You
for
good?
me.
Mr. Veneman? Thank you, Stanley. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Did you have any direct questions, Dean? Okay.
I'm sorry, Todd, can you back up one more time after I back there? Could you go over one more time, and I know you did at the public hearing, talked about it, but for the public more, can you explain the advantage of Wisconsin Rapids putting this in as opposed to other members of Great Lakes?
Okay,
And why-
so the Great Lakes Utilities, which is an organization where 13 municipalities are part of it, and we are one of the founders of it. They don't own any land. So when they look at this project, they need members to host it. And so as an incentive to the members to host it, they're allowing the members to keep the savings that you would get when the array is producing power. It's going to, and we did the data where we look at our zip code, and you can calculate how much it's going to generate and at what times. So we are able to look at the data, and it's going to reduce our demand charge by 5 megawatts for the month. It also then reduces your transmission charges at the same time. I try to explain that to people like a toll booth. So when a car is driving on the road in Illinois, a car is going to pay a lot lower toll than a semi. And that's what's happening with the generation. So we peak at around 55, 60 megawatts in the summer. This array puts out 5, so our peak is going down by the 5 in the summer months because the sun will be out during those peak days. And when we're talking about looking at increasing costs over the 30 years, we went back over the last 5 years, and the transmission costs are annually increasing 5% every year. They've done it now for 5 years in a row. And like I said, they're going to continue to go up. That's what all the experts say, and they're even going to go up higher than the 5%. When it comes to the demand charges, they've been going up 2% every year over the last 5 years. So again, they'll probably go up 2% for the next 30. And that's where the savings comes into play. So by shaving off 5 megawatts from our transmission costs and our peak costs, that's where you get that 6 million conservative number that I talked about on December 1st. But if you look at these percent increases and you go out the 30 years, that's where you're looking at more like $17 million. All those savings are pass-throughs to all 15,000 of the customers. And so a residential customer that only has an average bill of, say, $86 a month, yeah, is only going to save, you know, a dollar or so at most. But when you look at large customers, and, you know, we can pretty much, without saying it, know who those are, now you're talking $1 million, 1.3 over 30 years. If you look at small commercial customers, and we have a lot of those type of customers, now you're looking at numbers over the 30 years that's more like 14 or 15,000. And again, it maybe doesn't mean a lot because that's only $300 to $800 a year, depending on inflation and what happens. But just the idea that we can kind of hold these rates in check for a while, that's important to a lot of people. So, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, a lot of people on this solar project keep comparing it to the large solar projects that have been going in this area. It is nothing like those kind of projects. This is called behind the meter solar, meaning that there's these meter points where we're purchasing power. We purchase all of our power. We don't generate any of it. And this array is producing the power behind our meters, and it's being used by our customers on the power grid. So that just means we have to purchase less power while the array is producing. And that's how a glue member that hosting a site is getting this incentive to host it. Now, there's a whole other piece of the puzzle that we haven't talked about at all for Great Lakes Utilities. They always look at these power contracts that they have to negotiate, and they're typically like a 10-year contract. And when all the members chime in and host this, these 5 megawatts are going to be more like 30 megawatts for all of us. Now they have 30 megawatts that's at a locked-in price for 30 years. And so, again, Great Lakes Utilities is buying this power, and then we're buying it from Great Lakes, so there's a whole nother savings piece to it. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Dean?
Nope.
Ms. Palmquist?
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation and the willingness to have questions and answers so far. I think we need to do that a lot more with projects like this. But I feel like we're getting lost in the details. These conversations and discussions that we're having should be considered now and after we have a contract in place, including what would happen if One Energy goes out of business. I think we should have adequate protections within a contract if we decide to move forward with it. If One Energy is not willing to put in those details so that we feel comfortable, then we don't sign that contract and we don't do it. But step one is to consider this letter, which is not legally binding, and puts us in an agreement with a company that is willing to plant native pollinators, leave 150 feet minimum of tree barrier, and work with local unions to potentially complete this project. And if you ask me, that's a company I'm interested in hearing more about and working with.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just want to take a minute and clear the record a little bit. I think I've made it pretty clear over the last year and a half, a little better than that, that my intention as mayor is to get as much information to the public as possible and to everybody else that's on the committee. So my intention is to do whatever it takes in order to make sure everybody knows what's going on. I will take responsibility for the fact that when WWLC came with the project, it was many months ago, but we did not know at that time that the incentives would be taken away by the federal government for any solar projects. And then at that time, without me necessarily understanding it, again, I'll take responsibility as the person at the top here. Didn't understand. He went to the planning community development department, talked to Mr. Kearns, and they moved forward with their best understanding of this is what needed to happen next, which was a zoning change in order to move forward with the project. After that came to light, Sue Schill, our attorney, came forward and said, hey, we need to get this to the Finance and Property Committee meeting first. And we should have got it that month to the Finance and Property Committee, and it didn't get there. What we ended up doing was delaying the Planning Commission 1 month so that we could blast out as much information on the website, on social media, face-to-face, talking on the phone. I think we got a lot of information out there so that people could be ready for the Planning Commission meeting a month later. And at that meeting, we spent 3.5 hours making sure everybody had the opportunity to talk in full. Nobody was cut off, nobody was rushed. I think everybody had the ability to get their questions answered through WWLC and through One Energy and through the council here, Community Development Department. So I think that was a good way for the communication to happen. I think it's important for us all to listen to each other. At that point in time at the Planning Commission, I clearly stated that the chain of events that have to happen in order for us to get this LOI in place by December 31st was that we could not take action at the Planning Commission meeting, that we needed the next day to go to the Finance and Property Committee meeting, where they would then take it up and they would decide if they're going to move it forward or if they're going to kill it. And then at that point, we would either, if they moved it forward, then we would take it to the Planning Commission, whether it was a special meeting, and then they would talk about the zoning, and we would take them both up at the council meeting, the following council meeting. This one, actually. So, and I stated that a few times on the record, and so I assume that that's how we're moving forward. Now, sometime between that time and the release of the agenda for the Finance and Property Committee, and I'm not going to insult anybody by saying anything was shady, but I'm just saying there is a miscommunication, and again, I'll take responsibility for it because I should be the one that should be able to see all these things happening. I didn't see the fact that we weren't able to take out the, after the closed session hearing, it was put in the council, in the agenda, that we weren't allowed to come out, or they weren't allowed as the council, a committee to come out of that and vote on anything. So however that got in there, and I'm not quite sure, again, I don't understand necessarily why we would ever say that we're not going to allow a committee to come out and vote on something after they've talked about it in closed session. I don't fully understand that myself, so I'll continue to look into that. But in the end, that's how it played out. So then what was told to me was, well, because it wasn't in the minutes of the Finance and Property Committee meeting, there is no way for us to take it out in the council meeting here because it wasn't in the minutes. And I said, but if we don't, the whole reason we were supposed to talk about it at committee and vote it up or down was to get it to the council to vote it up or down so that we could get the letter of intent signed if we were moving forward, to get the letter of intent signed so that we would have that in place by December 31st so we could continue the conversation into January and still be able to collect on the incentives if that's to where we wanted to go. I do want you to understand, if I do not believe this is going to solve all of our problems. This is a solar array. I don't have a dog in the, a dog in the fight here. So I don't want people to look at this like this is something nefarious going on. This is an opportunity that one gentleman that spent his entire career working in the electrical world of Consolidated Mill, Quebco, Power and Water, and in WWLC, they know what they're talking about. And the council or the commission that we're asking to oversee that separated entity, they do their due diligence and they do their work and they're pretty smart. So we should at least hear them out. And the last thing I want to do is say, you know what, I'm going to do something and I'm going to shut it off so we can't even take a vote. All I really care about is getting it to you guys, because you're smart people that have been elected by the people of the community, to hear out all the information and take the vote. However the vote falls is how it falls. So I just want to set that record straight so that we're moving forward on the same page. I appreciate your time. Council, what are your wishes? I got a motion by Palmquist
To approve the letter of intent.
I have a motion by Palmquist to approve the letter of intent. I got a second by Pluis. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 5 ayes to 3 nays. Thank you. Item B, Public Works Committee meeting held on December 4th, 2025. Ms. Palmquist.
Motion to approve the Public Works Committee meeting held on December 4th, 2025.
Thank you. Getting used to not reading the minutes there, sorry. I have a motion by Palmquist to approve the minutes. I got a second by Veneman.
I'd like
Mr.
to hold
Plewis?
out for.
Mr. Plewis, you're up.
I'd just like to hold out number 5.
5. What's that? Any objections? All right, holding out item 5. Mr. Cattow, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, hold out item 4, please.
Any objections? Seeing none, holding out item 4. Item 5, any other questions? All right, so the motion on the floor is to pass the minutes, holding out items 4 and item 5. No questions or comments? Go ahead and cast your votes. Although, ayes have it, 8 ayes to 0 nays. Item 4, Mr. Plewis.
So number 4 was my referral to the Public Works Committee to eliminate the 2-hour parking downtown, or all 2-hour parking. I'm sorry, number 5. Did I speak? Number 4. Sorry, number 5 was my referral on the elimination of the 2-hour parking restrictions and replacing it with overnight parking. This was brought forth to me by a few business owners downtown who had recently received parking tickets because they exceeded the 2 hours. And I just thought it would help our businesses if they had clients or employees that wouldn't have to worry about whether they were parked over the 2 hours or not. And it would probably free up and make it easier for enforcement purposes too. There's no tracking of how long a vehicle's been in a certain spot. But receiving some good feedback from a constituent that mentioned that replacing it with no overnight parking might not be helpful. And for a multitude of reasons, there's some 2-hour parking in the residential area behind Solaris, where some of the residents do after, I think it's after 5 p.m. They can, the 2-hour restriction is only up until 5 p.m. So then they typically do park overnight. So replacing that with no overnight parking would prohibit them from being able to park overnight. And then the mention was if we had, businesses downtown where we had patrons patronizing an establishment that served alcohol, they might be more apt to not leave their vehicle there if there was no overnight parking. And driving under the influence could be a result. So with those two points taken in consideration, I'd like to take number 5 back to Public Works Committee to have a discussion that ultimately results in eliminating the 2-hour parking restrictions, but maybe not replacing it with the no overnight parking. And I'll make that a motion, yeah.
Sorry. Mr. Tim?
Yeah, I was just going to say I filled in on that Public Works meeting, and I think our thought process there was it's from 9 to 5, the 2-hour parking, and the problem, what's going to happen is you're going to have people that work in those establishments park right up front. All that parking is going to be gone, and now the people that actually want to be at those establishments aren't going to have any place to park. So I think the 2 hours is fine from 9 to 5. Anytime after that, people can park. I just think it during the daytime, and I think that was our consensus, was you're going to have all the people that either live or work right there parking in all the spots and will not have a spot to park for customers. So I would vote no on that. All
right, I have a motion by Plewis to, Is that what I'm looking at here? What is your motion?
My motion is to send number 5 back to Public Works Committee.
All right. I got a second by Penscover. Any other further questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 6 ayes to 2 nays. Austin and Tim being in the negative. All right, Mr. Catnow.
Thank you. This is regarding item 4, consider opening corporate limit roadways to all-terrain vehicles and U-terrain vehicle traffic. I'm gonna be honest, I can't believe the committee even took this up. The constituent who spoke at Public Works meeting said it best, and I couldn't agree more. Why are we even taking up an anonymous complaint from a resident from Grand Rapids? We represent the residents of Wisconsin Rapids. So, I mean, between this and the solar array, it just seems like we don't regard what our own residents think. We're supposed to be representative government, but we did a referendum, and districts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all voted no to ATV, UTV. But because of a complaint from Grand Rapids, we have the Public Works Committee, the Engineering Department, the city attorney. We have all this time, which is money, because we pay these people, being invested over and over and over about something that there was already a referendum on. So I would like to see this item go to rest. I don't know why it ended up on the agenda from a complaint from not one of our residents.
Thank you. Ms. Palmquist?
I can answer why it got on the agenda. And it wasn't just one resident, and I understand that not putting exactly who those people are might call into question my morals or ethics, as if I am submitting these just to bring the item up, but I can pass those along anonymously to any members of the council who are interested in who those are. Those individuals did not want to be named, as they've seen the public disarray and odd statements that are made about anyone who supports this, including simply doing the right thing, being a good neighbor. This isn't us bending to residents of another community, and it's coming up because prior councils did not have the due diligence to talk to the public and educate the public about what any sort of ordinance could be, which led it to a referendum. When that didn't pass and the county wanted to open Highway Z, I believe, well, I know the majority of this council, not myself included, voted to pass an ordinance allowing ATVs and UTVs on the roadway. So this didn't come up, and that ordinance isn't even what was voted on. Everyone in this council agrees that what was voted on and what was on the referendum is not okay within the community. Nobody wants that. This is not that. This is a different issue, and we created this issue by not having the conversations with the public, not taking the responsibility as a council to act as a representative democracy and make these decisions, to do anything with our roadways when we had the opportunity to.
Mr. Catnow?
Yeah, so just to add context, if someone didn't see the Public Works meeting, this is to allow roadways that are shared between us and other municipalities. So they are our roadways, they're also theirs. And what I'm speaking to is when the city voted on the referendum and said they didn't want ATV, UTVs on the road, that meant all of them that are the cities. I don't understand why we're taking into consideration other roads that are bordering townships and trying to make exceptions to that.
There's no way to police that now. You can't have one half of the roadway. We have to go, because we don't have an ordinance, we'd have to sign and indicate somehow that our portion of the roadway is closed. Because those other municipalities passed their ordinance, and I was at the Grand Rapids meeting when they did, and they brought up these roadways that are shared. And they decided our roadways are not their concern. Their roadways are not our concern. They said, pass it, open all of their roadways. So did Nakusa, so did Port Edwards. All of the areas that surround us are open, and we have created confusion by not allowing them. So we went through and did our due diligence to look at the roadways where you could have somebody who isn't our resident trying to abide by the rules of their own community, not even realizing that half of their road isn't technically in their community, and now they're violating the rules. So to make it easy to enforce, not having to our police or any other police department to have to say, are they on which side of the roadway before we pull them over to give them a ticket for driving on a closed roadway. Let's just look at the roadways, open only the ones that impact anybody, and any one that is shared that would not impact anyone, First Street. We took First Street off the list. First Street and the portion of 2 Mile that leads up to Sampson, that's only impacting Wisconsin Rapids residents, and those people voted no. Their road, even though it's shared, will not open. That one is off the limits. So we specifically took our time, reviewed this for, I think, 4 months now, to make sure that we were only being good neighbors and not impacting very few Wisconsin Rapids residents in the process.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? What are your wishes? Ms. Palmquist, got a motion to,
Approve the item as it's written in the minutes.
get a second by Austin. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Oh, jeez. I'm in favor. Nope. Motion passes 5 ayes to 4 nays. Nays are Veneman, Pluis, Catna, and Pollock. All right, item C, legislative committee held on December 2nd, 2025. Mr. Gatnow.
Thank you. What? Motion to approve the legislative committee meeting minutes that are in the packet as presented.
I had a motion by Catna, second by Penscover. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 8 ayes to 0 nays. Item 11, reports of other committees, commissions, boards, and department reports. They're all on file. Please read at your leisure and ask any questions if you need to. Item 12, referrals to committees. Ms. Gossick.
I do not have any new referrals. No.
Thank you. Item 13, in open session, the council may vote to go into closed session under section 19.85, para 1, para E of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. In closed session, the council may discuss negotiations and strategy regarding the renewals of emergency medical service agreements with Buren, Town of Port Edwards, and Coosa Cranmore, and the Ho Chunk Casino, which will expire December 31st, 2025, and with the Village of Port Edwards and Town of Saratoga, which will expire December 31st, 2027. Council, what are your wishes?
Motion to move to closed session.
I got a motion by Austin to go into closed session, seconded by Tim. All those go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 8 ayes to 0 nays. We are in closed session. The Ho-Chunk Casino, the Village of Port Edwards, Town of Saratoga, and emergency service agreements in general, and may take action regarding the aforementioned emergency medical service agreements. Council, what are your wishes? Mr. Catna.
Thank you. I would just like to say I'm against these contracts. Speaking to the public here, giving them some information maybe they don't know. Obviously, we all do. Our EMS personnel is also our firefighters. We've had meetings, and if you go back on YouTube, Facebook, the city website, look at the agendas, we have met numerous times about the problem we have with call volume and being able to keep up with it with our personnel as the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department. Continuing these contracts keeps our call volume up by about 20 to 25%, in which it doesn't solve our problem of our ratio of personnel versus call volume. And because they are both our firefighters and EMS, it puts our residents at risk to contract with outside communities. In the event that there is a fire, these EMS and firefighters could be in places such as the Ho-Chunk Casino, Cranmore, Saratoga, Nakusa, and not available to service the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids. And this will be debated, but I'll just throw these numbers out here. I believe we're subsidizing these communities, and just an example of it, Saratoga, a community of 5,000 people, and Wisconsin Rapids is approximately 20,000 people. They will get full EMS services for $131,000 in 2026 and 2027. If you take a look at our budget for EMS, it is, and you take that number, it is certainly not equivalent to what Saratoga's paying. So essentially, they're getting services for less than what our own residents pay. There was a meeting with the state rural health administrator to set up EMS district within this area, which is essentially what these contracts do, would be about a $1.2 million cost, of which if we go forward with this, we're giving them quite a discount on that, which means it falls back on the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids. So again, overall, that's what we're looking at. We're not going to have our call volume problem solved. We're going to be subsidizing these communities. And we're going to still be at risk with the number of personnel we have for firefighters and EMS, and them being out running these calls to the neighboring communities.
Anyone else? Mr. Lewis?
I'd just like to add, though, the collaborative effort in working with our neighboring partners is not necessarily subsidizing their EMS. It's a way to work together to provide full-time EMS services to our own city and our neighboring cities, with them paying their fair share, 50 or per capita. Paying that helps fund potentially up to 6 firefighters that will be in our city, available for both calls in our city and to those outlying communities. The outlying communities are 25% of the current call volume, roughly 1,000 calls, maybe a little more than 25%. So that means close to 70-75% of the time those individuals that are funded through that are going to be here to provide services to the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids. So I think it is a good way for our community to generate revenue to offset some of the costs of having a full-time fire and EMS department for the citizens of Wisconsin Rapids. So essentially, it is a win-win situation for our taxpayers and our surrounding communities. So I support this.
Thank you. I got a motion by Ms. Palmquist to
Make a comment and then a motion?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I agree that Saratoga and Port Edwards are paying $26 per capita, which is significantly less than what I would expect from these contracts. However, the decision to approve that contract at those rates was made by prior council, and I think it's our duty to honor those, as we have already signed agreements with them to have a 4-year contract at that $26 rate. Even though I don't like it, I do think we need to honor it. With that, motion to approve the contracts with the Town of Port Edwards, Nakusa, Cranmore, the Ho Chunk Village, and the Ho Chunk Casino, contingent upon receiving updated contracts from the Village of Port Edwards and Saratoga.
All right. Thank you. I got a second by Mr. Pluis. Any other further questions or comments? Seeing none, go ahead and cast your votes. Motion passes 7 ayes to 1 nay. Item 16, adjournment. I adjourn this meeting at 8:15 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.